Hey, it's Brad with Blue Nile Farm. I want to talk about getting your CDL or commercial driver's license and if it's worthwhile doing. And a lot of people are probably questioning, should I get one? Should I not? Is it, what are the opportunities that exist that are out there? Well, let me start off by saying first that right now across the country, truck drivers are in a big demand and they are looking for jobs. And everywhere I turn, just driving around locally, not only are the big rig companies are looking to hire, but a lot of local companies are looking to hire, whether you're a dump truck operator, whether you're able to have a Class A or Class B CDL to drive for landscapers or for asphalt companies. There's just so many opportunities that exist that there's no reason why you can't find a job. What they told me when I went to truck driving school 3 years ago was the fact of, because of that was when COVID was taking place and a lot of guys were getting out of the trucking industry, that you could actually pick and choose who you want to work for, and because there's such a demand. Now, for me personally, I was kind of like wide-eyed when I went to this because I was just thinking more on the small local side, but I was really surprised how much opportunity truly exists, and it's only up to you as the individual of what you really choose to do or want to do. And the money's not that bad for somebody that just starts out. You just got to figure, if you can go through a class within 4 weeks or even shorter in time, sometimes a little bit longer, and you commit to it and you take the test and you get your endorsements, you can turn around and make $25 to $30 an hour at least right off the rip, just to get a job driving truck. Now, it may not be for everybody, but it's an opportunity. So I think that when you're looking at opportunities, that's one of the biggest problems of getting started. Now, there is a little hindrance to people that drive truck, and I want to point this out really clear. If you have a lot of traffic tickets or violations and speeding on your record, you're probably going to have a hard time getting a job. If you have DUIs and drug history, whether it's for drug use or drug trafficking or just drugs in general or alcohol violations for DUI, you're probably going to have a hard time getting a job. But if you have a clean record and you're not involved with drugs and alcohol and your traffic violations are very minimal, I would pretty much guarantee that you probably have a good shot at getting a job. Even convicted felons are hireable, but the biggest factor here is your driving record. Because the problem with having a CDL is you have to have a pretty pristine driving record because you are going to be a professional driver. So if you have a lead foot, this might not be the job for you. And if you have a problem with road rage, this is definitely not the job for you. So I'm in Ohio, and Ohio basically mimics a lot of the federal laws. And when I was looking around to start this, I knew that I had to go to school, and I didn't want to just wing it. A lot of the old timers say, I'd just go take the test. Well, I never drove a big rig. I didn't know much about air brakes. I didn't really know much about it. And, I'm big in formal education. And I've taught for years in law enforcement, and I know it's better to take a class and learn it and practice it than to just wing it. And it's costly to take the test. You have to cough up, I don't remember how much. It was over $100 just to take the test. And I heard there's a high failure rate where I took it too, that a lot of guys were getting dinged and not passing. So I decided to enroll in a college course, and I wound up learning how to drive truck from them. And I did not regret anything about the course, but the problem with truck driving schools is that all they want you to do is pass the test. And that's all it comes down to is, can you pass a driving test? Can you go around and, visually inspect the truck and cover all those main points there that will make you pass the test? Can you get into the truck and do the backing up maneuvers and other maneuvers to pass the test? Can you get on the road with the guy that's giving you the license and driving around and demonstrate to him that you are a capable driver? If you can do those three things, sure, you can go take the test. So I enrolled in this school, and it was on a part-time basis. And so when I said 4 weeks, that's more for a full-time type student. But a lot of times, this may drag up anywhere from 3 months to 4 months, all depending on the program. But unfortunately, like I said, I didn't choose different places to go. I went to one place specifically and took the class. It cost me $6,000 out of pocket. And they were telling me too that they're going to make that mandatory throughout the state, that if you want to get a CDL, you're going to have to take a class. Now, there are a lot of grants that are out there and college funding that you can apply for. And a lot of the students that I took a class with, that's how they got in. But I coughed up $6 grand of cold hard cash, and I went with it. So it was well worth it to me as far as getting the CDL. But to be honest with you, the time I left there, I really didn't know squat about the trucking industry, and I really don't know much about the opportunities that exist, because I know there's so many that are out there and I haven't even explored it. So the reason why I really didn't care about that is because my goal of getting a CDL is more selfish. And this is where I'm going to go to talk about me for a second, and hopefully I don't bore you. I have a farm. It's been growing larger in size. I do a lot of hay and hay production and hay sales. So I was thinking, instead of pulling with a dually, to get into like a single X or semi truck, because they're a lot cheaper than going out and buying a dually. And, you know, they're supposed to last up to 1,000,000 miles versus a dually that pretty much at $300,000 they're pretty much, you know, beat down. So I figured the semi truck would be a more cost-effective approach, and it's going to last a little bit longer, and I can get a bigger haul. That was it. And I also was involved with skid steer work and land clearing work, and I knew that the equipment that I was hauling went well over 10,000 pounds just, you know, being pulled by the trailer. So I know I needed a CDL. And even though I'm called, you know, you can say, well, you're a farmer, you don't need to have a CDL. Well, you know, depending on the state you're in, that may be true. But the problem is, from what I understand, the language and the definition of farmer varies across the board. And I personally, being in law enforcement, I always try to do things on the up and up. And I just know that, why play that game? Go get your CDL, do it right, do it legal. And even if I ever get in an accident, at least I have the training and the CDL to back me up a little bit versus not having anything at all. And also, it all depends on who pulls you over. You know, in the state of Ohio, there's lots of law enforcement, and the local police don't know squat for the most part about trucking laws and trucking violations. You know, and there are Ohio State Patrol in our state, but not every Ohio State patrolman is an expert at that either. They may have some familiarity, but they're not. But there are a select few guys in police departments and in the Ohio State Patrol that they specialize in violations of semi-trucks, and they will pull you over and do inspections and so on and so forth. So it is very important that you do everything on the up and up, in my opinion. And I know a lot of guys, based upon what they're hauling and based on the weight that they're hauling, they should also have DOT numbers, and they don't. And I don't know how they get by, because they would think that they'd be pulled over by now. And some of these guys have been doing it for a while. So unfortunately though, when I went into this class, these are things that they don't really go into big detail. They skim the law, but they don't really teach you exactly what you have to do as an individual. And so for me, I did it because I wanted to buy my own truck. I wanted to do my excavation and land clearing jobs on the side, and also help for my farm. And if I decided to drive for somebody, I would do that. But that's my main purpose, was for me, was to just basically drive for myself. And so I sat through the class, and I was in a class with probably 12 other people. And the time we got done, which was like 3 months, 4 months of actually going to school on a part-time basis, I was the only one that passed. And I was not surprised by that, because when we were practicing, a lot of these guys didn't want to go out and practice. They all wanted to go home early. They couldn't even back up in a straight line. Some of them never even drove a truck before, even a pickup truck, or backed up anything in their life, and then they're got to back up a 53-foot trailer. They did not understand the principles behind it. And, you know, that was their own self demise. But personally though, whether you have a farming background or you don't have a background at all, you know, I see a lot of guys that are landscapers, guys that are contractors. I'm watching them pull stuff on the road, and I know they need a CDL and they don't have one. It's just a matter of time before somebody pulls them over and they get stuck. But I do think that having a CDL is a great thing to have. And again, it's another issue of employability, and something that you should be proud to have to undertake. Now, as far as endorsements go, you get different endorsements for different tankers, trucks, for example, different things that you'll be pulling. And that's just basically going to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and taking a test, and you get your endorsements based on what you pass. And if you want to learn about those tests and how to pass them, all you have to do is get on YouTube, look at your state laws. There, a lot of times they have sample tests for that state on that endorsement. And if you start watching those videos, then go and take the test. A lot of times the answers are almost right on the bang, and you should have no problem at all learning the laws based on those videos. And that's how I learned a lot, just to get my endorsement. It was a lot easier to do that than get the book. But you know, it's been 3 years on since I've had my CDL, you know, and I have my own dump truck, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. Well, I'll tell you now, but as soon as I graduated, I had to look for a truck, and I wanted to find one. And I was looking at single axle semi trucks, thinking, you know, because of hauling hay, that was an ideal truck to get because they're really short and they're easy to turn. And basically, that's one less axle and brake system that I don't have to pay for. And I always pull hay on the dry ground anyway, so I didn't think I was going to get stuck. And if I did, I could pull it out with a tractor. But I chose to go with a dump truck instead. And that kind of was the better choice. And with that, I wound up buying a 40K pintle hitch trailer that I can haul excavators on, my skid steer tractors on, and that was the greatest combination that I could come up with. So now, because of my farming operation, I sell manure, topsoil, and different things, I'm able now to haul and dump material, and I'm able to, you know, load dirt. And it's part of my farm excavation program, and it helps me out tenfold. So buying that dump truck was a great idea, and now that I have a CDL, it allows me to go ahead and do that. And down the road, I'm thinking about buying a semi truck with tandem wheels, tandem axles, so then I may use it as a hauler to get hay, you know, with maybe a 35-foot or 40-foot trailer. That's something I'm thinking about, and I haven't got there yet, but I know that buying a used semi-truck is a lot cheaper than a dually. And I believe that, and this is part of the reason why I went with the CDL, is that when you pull and you get the experience of driving a semi-truck with air brakes, you feel a lot safer pulling when you have a heavy load behind you than you are with the dually. And you know you could stop a lot better by having the semi. So, and it's really not that intimidating once you start driving. You just holler and you're a little bit wider, but you know, you feel that, and as long as you're not in a race, you know, you feel like you have more control of your load. And I enjoy it. I mean, when I get behind the wheel, I enjoy it, and even though it's a stick, and I enjoy driving it. So this is a little 7-speed single axle Mack, but it's the highest truck I've ever had on the road. I'm basically hovering over everybody else. But it's a good truck, and I'm very happy that I bought it, and I have no regrets. But that's how I use my CDL, is for my own self-employment, for my own farm. But I also know that I can go out and get a job anywhere, or I can haul for somebody else if I wanted to on the side. And that's why it's a skill that you could never lose. My dad always told me, he says that you can never have a problem getting certifications. You can never have too many of them. And I have a lot of certifications in a lot of different things. And I have to agree that being certified and having a CDL makes me more marketable no matter what. And I'm college educated, and I have a lot of different things in my background that makes me marketable. But the most important thing that I can say is that having a CDL for a short course, for you to go out and get a job and become marketable, you can't beat it. And if you can't find a job or you don't know what you want to do, and I understand too, driving truck across the country does not appeal to me whatsoever. But I also know there's so many different jobs out there for short haul trucking, or even if you want to be an owner operator for yourself and just do local stuff, or you're into construction work, the opportunity exists. And all you need to do is learn to take a class and find out. But unfortunately though, like I said, the downfall of the trucking schools is that they teach you very little. Just all they care about is you passing. And unfortunately, they don't teach you the ins and outs of the industry. And that's kind of one thing that I really am kind of confused about still, because I know there's so many different opportunities that exist. I haven't even opened up that door, and I'd like to really know. But if you ever ask me, is a CDL worthwhile, I would say unquestionably yes. And even if you're just pulling, these guys that are pulling hot shot loads, and you see them pulling the dually trucks with these big 40-foot trailers, and they're going up and down the road, you know, carrying light loads. Most of those guys are going to try to get into CDLs because then you can do it. And actually, those trucks, those dualies, they're not made to be doing that. Even though these new trucks now are like $70,000, $80,000, I'd rather go out and buy a $20,000 or $30,000 used semi truck. I'll get more miles out of it, and it's made to pull. And it's, to me, it's the way to go. So, in closing, I have to say that getting a CDL is a great thing to have, and I don't care what state you're in. I think that that's a certification nobody can take away from you, and you will always be employed. But all you have to do, again, is have a clean driving record, stay away from drugs and alcohol, and if you can do those 3 things, generally you can get a job, and that's really what counts. And the other problem too is you need to get some time in and get some experience driving. And the bottom line, why wait? Get started now. I started at 56 years old. There's people older than me that are doing this too. And, you know, it's not that difficult, folks. This is something that will be good for you in your background. So something to consider whether you use it or not. And you can use it personally if you want. But go get a CDL. It's something that you'll never regret once you get it under your belt. Thanks for watching. Hey, before ending the video, I want to point out a couple of things. Number one, you want to get as many endorsements that you can. And the only endorsement that I didn't get was hazardous waste. And that's because that's not something I'm going to be able to pull. And I guess you have to jump through a bunch of other hoops to get that. So I decided I'd hold off on hazardous waste. But I have the tankers, the doubles and triples. I got everything I could get, air brakes. You want to get all those, every endorsement you can get your little hands on that doesn't cost you anything. Secondly, you do not want to get a Class B. If you're going to go to the CDL and go to class, get yourself a Class A. Because once you're a Class A driver, you can drive anything, anywhere, and your marketability is going to be so much greater. So Class A all the way. I wouldn't do anything but. Even if your employer or something says, I'll just give you a Class B, I would push for a Class A, because remember, you may move on from that employer, and if you can do something else with it, you don't want to go through truck driving school twice. You only want to do it once. If you do it once, you get a Class A. And unfortunately, like I said, the truck driving schools, they want you to pass. They don't really teach you the things in the field. And I think experience and meeting the right people are going to be your best teachers, and maybe getting different types of jobs. But find something that works for you. But truck driving isn't so bad, and I enjoy it. I don't think I can do the long trips. Like I said, for 8 hours a day, that'd be a little bit much for me. But as far as short trips and having different experiences driving different things, you know, there's so many different options out there. All you have to do is go look. Again, thanks for watching, and be safe.